So, hello. Nice to see you all. Awesome that you could make it. My name is Florian. We are waiting probably a couple of minutes more, and then we're good to go for Teams governance like a boss. So stay tuned, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and then we will start. Um, all right. In the meantime, if you already brought some questions or topics you are very interested in when it comes to governance, you can post it. We do have a team in the background that answers all of your questions. So you are covered. All right. So let's wait for another 2 minutes and then start. So also hello to all of the new people that just joined. We are starting in just 1 to 2 minutes, just waiting for the last people to get on board, and then we are good to go. So stay tuned. Yes, it's possible to see the presentation later. So there's already a version in YouTube, and we will record this for sure, and then you have the option to watch it again. And we will do this monthly, as there's always new things to see in Teams governance as Microsoft stays on developing, and there are more and more tools you can use. So yeah, there will be first of all the recording, and then always an update webinar to this topic. So I would say we are good to go, and we can start with Teams governance like a boss. My name is Florian Pflanz. I'm with Solutions to Share. We are a governance company, Microsoft Gold partner, and we do this now for over 10 years. So we have quite some knowledge when it comes to governance. With over 40 people, we do governance applications and governance services all over the world. We do have applications in the Teams App Store and have over 40,000 installations there. So it's our hobby to do governance and to find out the most applicable ways to be awesome when it comes to arranging everything properly and not having uncontrolled growth. So our two tools, and we do have even more, are basically governance things and apps for SharePoint and Teams. But I won't bore you with that. We are here for Teams governance like a boss. Today, we will go over all the specifics of a good governance strategy. So what do you need to have to be a good governance guide in and have a good environment in Microsoft Teams. So this is our main goal today. We will go over all the specifics. So the most important things when it comes to governance is that the worries from most of our customers and companies out there is wild growth in Teams. So, and wild growth always means duplicates. It means that the intended use of Teams is unclear, because there are more and more teams that people have created like a couple of months or years ago, and they don't even know if they should make a new team or stick to the old one. So there's a very big lack of clarity, and it gets more complex by the day. So if you use Messenger or WhatsApp on your smartphone, you probably know the problem pretty good, as you have a lot of groups you're part of. Some of them are not interesting anymore, but you stick to them and you never delete them. And as time goes by, all of your groups get more and more messy, and your complete environment leads to uncontrolled growth and the way you handle it. Then there is data loss, there's the topic of data protection, and for sure security when it comes to the governance and the worries of our customers and companies. So what does user dissatisfaction mean, and what does it lead to? It leads to there's no clarity when you have a lot of teams and you have no idea where to actually work in. Then the content lies completely scattered. So no option in having a clear structure when it comes to what do you use if you build a project. So you want to have a new project in your company, and basically it runs like every other project, but you always need to create a new team, and it is empty, so most of the users don't know how to structure it. And then in the end, the acceptance decreases. People start to work in other environments again. So this means they go to private chats, they go to WhatsApp, Messenger, and so on, because their work environment is completely wild. So yeah. The management dissatisfaction, though, can be even bigger, as there are always rising IT costs when you do not have a structured environment. This just means that if you need to clean up your environment once in a year and you are a bigger company, it takes a lot of time to cover all of this that users created in the last 12 months. So it gets more and more stuff you as IT people have to take care about. And as this is grown over time, there is a lot of incorrect information. So there is no clear path to finding content to see, okay, this data is actually valid or it is still incorrect and it should probably be deleted, but nobody knows because there is not a real owner of this team anymore, and this is just wasted working time. And as IT and as people that work in IT for a long time, we've seen so many projects that have been so expensive because let it be a SharePoint environment or a Teams environment, it had to be cleaned up for days, and that's pretty expensive. So you need a governance strategy in your company. It means recognizing the problem or that you might have one. So checking out, how does my environment look like? How many teams do I have? And what path do my users follow? And then understanding teams governance and opportunities, doing a governance workshop, a governance concept, and implementing governance in the company and control and rework everything by time, as everything changes and Teams is a very, very new product. So understanding Teams governance and its opportunities, this is what we are here for today. Governance components are, when it comes to Teams, Microsoft Teams, it's templates, naming conventions, its life cycle. So how long does a team live, or should it live? Maybe it is a department team and it can live forever, but what if it's just the test team or a project team? And then talking about, should it be somehow deleted once in a while, and then talking also about privacy. What kind of team do you use? Do you need private channels? So what would you want to actively do conversation without somebody else, and how you share data when it comes to Teams? Then there are the sensitivity labels by Microsoft, and these are pretty cool things that bring us later in a new and barely touched environment from the most people, because these sensitivity labels can do a massive good inside of Microsoft Teams. So if you haven't checked them out, do it. Just Google it. Even in small licenses with Microsoft, the sensitivity labels are possible already. And then there is external access. External access is a very, very hot topic. For example, or maybe the first thing that you should know about it, and I will already cover this now, is did you know that out of the box on your tenant, probably every team owner is allowed to invite external people. So this is something that's really almost in every tenant, because it's such a small checkbox in the back of the admin center to do different, so that nobody knows and nobody checked it out. So this is something we will take care of today. And then there are channels and tabs. There are many settings in channels and tabs you can take. So you should think about the user rights and the owner rights. So what are they allowed to do? And then we go to actions and settings, and even the creation process later of teams. So how should the creation process of a new team look like? And last but not least, the Teams applications. So there is an app store. You could already think about, is everybody in my company allowed to access the app store? Yes, no. What kind of apps do they have? Should they have every app? Is every app from Microsoft valid for every user? I can spoiler, no, it's not. So there are a lot of applications. You should probably take some control and decide really actively, okay, this is valuable and this is not. This is why I provide my users with this and that technology. And probably not everybody in my company is allowed to use Microsoft Flow, for example. All right. Yeah. In the middle and before we step into the specifics, we as a company offer a governance workshop. It's 1 day to get you onboarded, to bring your environment to the next level of governance, to go through every setting we will now talk about. You can already book your workshop if you think, yes, these guys know about governance. I will show this after the presentation again. So just so you know, this is what we are earning our money with. So we do governance for Microsoft Teams, and we offer it today with a special price for 1,400 euros for the whole day, and as many people as you like in your workshop. So let's step into the world of governance and talk about templates. So this was the first part of governance I just introduced you to. And what does templating in Microsoft mean? So a template of a Microsoft Teams team can consist out of tabs, channels, settings, and a different structure. It can be for private teams or for public teams. It can have internal channels, so private channels, and there are the folders, the documents, the SharePoint pages can also be part of the template, because remember, in the back of every SharePoint and every group, of Teams is a SharePoint site. So thinking about how this is structured, should it be pre-populated when you roll out a team? Should it be maybe blocked so nobody can use the SharePoint site because your company is not ready to go the whole M365 way and you want to start with Teams? And then there are apps, webhooks, connectors. So how does Teams work in your infrastructure, and what do you provide your end users with? The possibilities of Microsoft Teams templates are pretty cool. So Teams templates can be created in the admin center. I don't know if any of you just already have entered Microsoft Admin Center to Teams and checked out every little function. There are many of them. Microsoft has standard templates, but we're not suggesting to suggest to use them. Build your own templates if you want to use the admin center. To be honest, it's very limited, but you can do already a lot of things. You can do copy team. Copy team just gives you the option to do the exact same structure, but not with apps or something like that. So you can basically copy a team and it has the same channel structure. You still have to go in there and set everything up by hand. Another option for templates is third-party applications. So there are a couple of them in the App Store. It's possible with them to define templates with documents, folder structures, planners, OneNotes, applications, and so on. It is based on your requirements, what you use. If you are a big company and you want to provide specific templates to your users, I really suggest MS Teams templates or third-party applications, as they give you the most options to differ between separate cases. Copy Teams is really one of the probably worst options, as it's mostly done by team owners, and it can't be really controlled by a group of people that are doing governance inside of Microsoft Teams. My tip is just start easy when you build templates. From the last couple of hundred governance workshops we've done in the last couple of years, we can tell even big companies work with stuff like project templates, department templates, subjects, and customer templates. Why is that so? Because the structure is similar in a lot of cases, and a team owner is still capable of changing a structure of a team, so they can still add stuff to it. But they need a predefined structure to get onboarded and start using Teams. So when we come to adoption and you say, okay, if you provide them with a couple of templates and they all have these fancy challenges, what if a team or a user just wants to test Teams? Therefore, we suggest to give your users a way to test Teams, because you want adoption, you want them to engage with the product, so they should have a template to just test Teams. And if it's marked as a template, you can later see it and then say, okay, this is a test team. Maybe you have an additional naming convention to it, and you can delete it, or it can be deleted automatically. This is something we talk about when we come to life cycle. When we create templates and we roll out Teams, we do need naming conventions. Naming conventions are very important when you have more than 100 teams on your tenant, because first of all, if you are responsible for teams on your company tenant, you should know what these teams are good for. And on the other hand, your end users should get a good overview of their own teams and what they're good for. So work with prefixes and suffixes. Say, if it's a project team, something like P underline department underline team name. Use metadata in prefixes and suffixes. So something like maybe a project number, or the country your subsidiary is working in, or definitely the department people work in. So if you have, for example, different projects in different departments, it should be visible in the team name. And always think about the team name will appear in your client and it will appear on your smartphone. So make it smart. Don't do too long team names. They just don't work, to be honest, because people take their smartphone and it's very small, and they have a very, very limited number of letters they can use. So don't go big on team names. So make it smart. You can do naming conventions also for OneNote and Planner, because I don't know if you have seen a OneNote or a Planner in the past of your company. If you use that for a couple of years, it's a bloody mess. And therefore, in a good adoption concept and a good governance concept always has a good overview in OneNote and Planner also. So naming conventions are as important here as they are for Teams. And as you know, there is always a OneNote or a Planner in Teams. These are the most used applications by Microsoft when it comes to co-working. So What are your possibilities? You can use a third-party app when it comes to naming conventions. You can do it manually, or you can do it with Azure Active Directory. And this is not only something you need a big plan for. You could do it in Azure Active Directory with your regular, I think, E1 or E3 license. And that should work. The advantages of having good naming conventions is you can easier locate teams. You have a clear identification of SharePoint site, related teams, Planner, and OneNotes. It's easier to find duplicates. If you are in the Teams admin center and you check out all the teams, you can just scroll through. And if your users do it right, you in the IT have it easier to manage all the existing teams. What is the challenge? Azure Active Directory means the AD must always be up to date, and it does not work with multiple templates. So a naming convention with the Active Directory always means having one naming convention for your complete tenant. Actually, I don't know what Microsoft thought about this feature when they created it, but if you don't have just project templates or project teams on your template, it's not that useful. So what options do we have? You can do it by hand. So you can give people a good onboarding and tell them, hey, Sebastian, if you create a new team, you need to say P underline if it's a project, you need to say D underline if it's a department, and so on. So this already can help a lot to clean up your environment. And there is sure another way for naming conventions. I'll show you later. So if possible, apply everything from the beginning. I know a lot of you already can do or live in an existing Teams environment that have grown by time, and so you want to know strategies to get it back to normal. We'll come to that. But if you're still thinking about going into Microsoft Teams, think about Teams governance the same day you decide to go on with it. Do not exaggerate the prefix length. That's what I said when I meant you just have a little space when it comes to the team name. So go light on it. And from our perspective, it's totally okay to have 100 teams in your Teams tenant and not having very specific naming conventions. But if your company is bigger, and most companies are bigger than 100 teams when it comes to Microsoft, then you should definitely think about good naming conventions. Get together with internal communications and IT. These, in most cases, are the both departments that have knowledge about communications from the past and teams from the past. And this is a good start when you want to apply naming conventions. So next thing, the life cycle. How long does a team live in your company? Maybe 30 days, maybe 100 days, more likely forever. So at least that's what we experienced in most of our customers' tenants. Nobody deletes something right now because it's the cloud and it's very dangerous. And if somebody hits delete, in most cases, it's gone. Nobody knows where it's gone, and so nobody deletes Teams. Do you know that there is an out-of-the-box archiving feature in Microsoft? You can archive Teams by a button push if you are a team owner. That's a very good thing. So you can clean your environment. And what a lot of companies do or plan to do is having a team request. So give the team a starting point. Not everybody is allowed to create teams and nobody knows how long they should live. Give it a starting point where so, okay, if you want to have a new team, make a request. And ask users also, hey, do you still need this team if the life cycle expired? All right, and then I already talked about it, deletion. Talk about what can be deleted. Teams is in many cases like it's WhatsApp or some other messenger or Threema or whatever or Telegram. You need to delete stuff because people communicate in the next couple of years. So we've talked to a lot of Microsoft people as we work with them very closely, and we are talking about something about 7 to 8 years of this product lifecycle Microsoft Teams. This means your users will live in there for a very, very long time, and it would be pretty expensive to keep all the data in there. And with data, I also mean chats and threads and private documents and so on. So deletion definitely needs to be a topic. All right, what are the possibilities for lifecycle? There are not many. I need to be honest. You can do Azure Active Directory. You can have one lifecycle for every team. That's actually a very good strategy to clean up the complete tenant at once. So you can set up a lifecycle in Azure Active Directory for every group that is already on your tenant. And then after a certain while, they get an email. So your owners get an email, and then they can say, yeah, I still need this team, or no, I don't need it, and they get archived then. What's the problem here? In most cases, there are a lot of topics and teams that shouldn't be archived, and they are still in use. And in general, working with teams and getting an email relating to a team, I wouldn't answer to it, to be honest, because Microsoft is sending me so many emails every day for you have a message and so on that it's pretty hard to pull that through in a company. So there are third-party apps for governance, for life cycles. Use them. Most of them are very affordable. I will give you 2 sentences to the Teams manager when we are done here. It is it's one of the features it has, and then you can just check it out. It's free. You can download it, so you get a better understanding what is possible. And yeah, if not, at least use Azure Active Directory once to clean up your tenant. That's very important. Advantages of a lifecycle. So it's easier for users to find teams in general because it cleans out itself by time. Wild growth is continuously prevented by a team approval. So to say, okay, I want this team or I should ask for this team, you can do this in many ways. We will later talk about it. Deletion and archiving of inactive teams is something that is important. You can go to your admin center and you will find the inactive teams. You can list them in your admin center. So go in there, you probably will also find some ownerless ones. There should be a usage review by the team owner. This is something you can train people for. You can say in your adoption classes or in your onboarding for Microsoft Teams, at least once, create a reminder in Outlook or something once a month, go over your teams, check out, is everything still active or can I archive something? Or use an automatic archiving process. So ask your users. There are several options here, also with Flow, Power Apps, third-party applications, and so on. Ask your users, hey, do you still need this team? And if you need this team, how long do you need this team? So he can answer, it's his responsibility. And 12 months later or 6 months later, he gets asked again, hey, you still have a project team here. Is this still valid? And so on. And then you have immediately reduction of your manual maintenance by the IT. I don't know how it's in your company. In most companies, we know IT is very little. Other people are a lot in comparison to the IT. So this is why you definitely need some options to make it to make life easier. Because as time goes by, your tenant will grow, your teams will grow, and you need to get some control. So what is the challenge? In the Active Azure Directory, there is only one life cycle. If there are if there are different policies, you have to switch to a third-party tool or to a self-built flow Power App Graph API solution. That's also possible. The challenge is also that you increase responsibilities for your team owners. They not only are responsible for the content, they are also responsible for the life cycle of your teams. And that's a challenge. People need to know that. They need to know that this is their responsibility to keep up with a cleaned environment. In any case, in the case where you have nothing, so teams out of the box, or you have a third-party application, just let them know what their responsibilities are. So it must be defined. Next, my tip when it comes to templates and life cycles. So if you want to do this together with us, with your company, I already posted the link for the workshop. We will do that together with you, remote in one day. We work through every setting of your tenant to get you ready and good to go. In this case, I'll give you a short overview of what I would do. So I would go for my templates we've talked about already, and then have 180 days of for projects. It doesn't matter how long they actually are. You can also, if you use a third-party application, use metadata, so date fields, to make a project lifecycle. But in general, it's always good to check with the owner of a project if this is still running. A department, on the other hand, shouldn't have a life cycle because it probably lives as long as the company lives. Or yeah, I actually cannot think about a case where a department should have a life cycle, but a subject should have a life cycle, and it should give the user the opportunity to talk about things, to make a cross-department thing, and then get asked, hey, do you still need it? Actually, you can do that with more than one owner, and can trigger a message, hey, you have a team there, a subject team. Do you still want to work with it? A customer team is very important when it comes to a life cycle. Why? Because they're usually external people in there. Having external people in your tenant is a little bit like having external people in your basement, because you invite them once, then you have a nice evening, and after the nice evening, somehow they end up in your basement. You go to bed and they're still there. And then they have still access to every room in your company, so basically in your team. And that's why you definitely should check out how you work with externals. We will cover that later. But a customer team is always a team, in our experience, in my experience, that has external users. So take care of it. And then there is tests, 30 days. Give your users the option to try everything out, to make a cake baking team or a cycling on the weekend team, to plan events or something like that. Make it a 30-day life cycle or a 45-day life cycle, and then delete it again. In most cases, you will never need it twice. Or if you want to do a second hiking tour, just create another team. So it should have as little interaction with the user as possible, so nobody gets struck by this work or is annoyed by this. So it should be an easy process. All right. Privacy. A lot of users don't know what a public, a private, or org-wide team is. I have seen a lot of tenants where people always create public teams or do private teams only with 2 people. It's very important that you tell your users what these teams are good for. So anyone can participate. The content is accessible to everyone in your in the organization. That should be clear. That, for example, a topic team should maybe accessible for everybody, or a team where people get information to specific things should be available for everybody. And then think about org-wide teams. Is it a place where you want to share information with your complete company? This could be a good way if you do not have an intranet, or if you want to add an intranet into Teams, you could use an org-wide team. Put your intranet there, make it the place where people communicate and have access to your SharePoint intranet, for example. Try to make it as open as possible. Do knowledge sharing, and try to get away from, okay, this is sales and only sales can work in a sales channel or team. Why is that? Because survey shows you earn more money the better people work together. And if they have better access to information, they use this information in their work life. For example, I think this is the best example. We've worked with a very huge customer in the past, and they gave everybody access to the sales channel. And in the sales channel, all the salespeople started to post when they closed a deal or when they started working with a customer. And the huge advantage was that the consultant part and the project part of this company started interacting with the salespeople. So, for example, they said when people said, "Oh, we have a nice new lead," they started engaging in these conversations and said, "Hey, I already talked about this with another customer, or I have experience in that field. I can help you with this customer. Make it open." And combine the control with sensitivity labels. We will speak about sensitivity labels in just a bit. So make this an easy place to work with. You can define default privacy policies. You can do that with the Teams manager, if you like, where you have metadata and make privacy policies based on the kind of metadata people enter. All right, sensitivity labels. Here we are. Sensitivity labels, go to your admin center, check it out. You can protect your data with it. It's very important. They are pretty new. So actually they're not, but they're now out of the beta phase, and Microsoft promotes them. So start to use them if you have access to it, to protect data from unauthorized access. I could do a complete webinar on sensitivity labels because there are so many different cases you can use them. It's basically rolling out guidelines for security. So labeling a team, what is classified, what is not, what is open, what is public, where do people need to think about sharing data, maybe with externals, maybe with internals, and so on. An example for sensitivity labels would be personal. By the way, you can make them custom, so you can define what they do. So let's say there is in a personal would be non-business data for personal use only. Then there is maybe a public label that there is company data that is specifically prepared to release for public. A lot of marketing teams actually work with a public label for their team to see, okay, everything that is in here can go out to sales. Then there's internal, working with people from the company and business parties. And there's for sure confidential and top secret. I think it's completely clear what is meant by this. So very sensitive data you need to protect, and that's where you definitely need to use sensitivity labels. If you want to make it easier, you can also use Azure classifications. That's a pretty easy thing. Just label these teams, but sensitivity labels are the new way to go. And I strongly suggest to look into your security and compliance department. All right, classify content in Office 365 is your possibility here to differ between specific types of teams and classify Microsoft 365 groups, because it's not only about Microsoft Teams when it comes to this, but only to SharePoint team sites. What are the advantages? You can protect content from unauthorized access because you can encrypt them. And it doesn't matter where it's stored. You can enforce governance rules, for example, and a guest access that works only with a specific sensitivity label, and you can connect them with you can connect sensitivity labels with the types of teams if you like. So what is the challenge? Labels can be assigned manually or automatically. Automatically only with an E5 license. That's an interesting thing because an E5 license is in most cases not in place. It's very expensive, so you will probably end up doing it manually or with a tool. So you could also use a tool that is capable of doing governance, using a good governance solution, and then you can apply those labels. You can apply classifications or sensitivity labels, both. All right. And you should definitely have an information protection concept. But that sounds scary. It's not as scary as you think. It's a good security workshop can help you in 1 to 2 days to get you on top of what happens in the back of your team's clients. Our tip is really use, if you need it, if you say, okay, it's for us, it's perfectly clear there is this requirement, definitely use a third-party application because Microsoft is not providing a very good solution for this, or a very expensive one. I don't know if you know what an E5 license costs. I think it tops every user per month with €7.50 or something. It's pretty expensive. So let's get to the next topic, and this little guy you see here is actually the external user manager. That's also free to test. You can just download it from the App Store, but we want to cover the topic in general. So what is the thing with externals? How many of you have guests in their tenant? I would say everybody. So here are a lot of people, and I think probably everybody has guests in there. And I think only a few have a structured process to invite people, because Microsoft makes this very easy. So they just let people onto your tenant. And sometimes that's a good idea because you need to work with them, and sometimes it's not because you have valuable content you don't want to share. So we want to define guest access. So which team should have guest access? Which team should have not? It should be depending on individual collaboration needs. A department team probably shouldn't have a guest access, but a project team should have one, or an external project team. Who reviews the guests in teams? Who goes over a team and says, okay, there are 5 guests in there. Why are they in there? And how long? Do we still need them? These are questions you need to ask because these people are on your tenant. This is your home base, and you definitely need to ask why they are on there, because they probably, if you are a European or an American company, they probably need to sign an NDA or a GDPR to be somehow allowed to access your data. So, and there needs to be a monitoring and a management. There needs to be a person or a department. In a lot of cases, this is the IT. From our experience, that's not always a good idea because IT is very far away from the actual everyday project work. No matter what, somebody should monitor externals and keep track. And the last thing, and this is probably one of the most important things, is external file sharing. What is allowed? Who is allowed to share external files, and what kind of files? And in every team or in just specific teams? So think about it. That's very important. How is this structured in your company, and how would you answer these questions? Possibilities. Guest access in Microsoft Teams. You can allow it for all teams. You can allow it for a selection of teams. And you will now probably ask, where's the button to do that? There is none, because Microsoft has a agenda, and it is to have as many consumption as possible, and that's where external users add to the game. But it's possible with a PowerShell script. So there is a PowerShell script to shut down the option to invite guests per team. It's not that hard. You can just execute it, but that's again a lot of manual work. Allow and pass responsibilities to owners. That's very important, because even from a law perspective, they are responsible for these people. They invite these people. They are responsible for what they do. And probably in a lot of your cases, it's also their responsibility to let them sign 5 NDA pages and GDPR stuff and so on. So they definitely should have a better knowledge of their guests. You could also disable it for all teams. For those of you who do not know how to do this, this is a very, very specific little button. If you want to know it, just post it into the questions, and I will take a minute after my webinar and go into it and show it to you. In general, this is all part of our governance workshop if you want to engage with us, and we will show you every specific setting. So third party is definitely an option. There is guest access only with permission from owners or from specific approvers. I know I do a little advertising here, but the external user manager is actually the only application in the App Store worldwide. You can just download it that has this feature. Check it out. It's in there for now 2 weeks. We are very, very proud of it. It's a very cool thing. Other than that, again, you can still do it manually if you have people for it. It doesn't matter how you do it, but you need to do it. Control your guest access. Do it over Azure Active Directory, do it with a third-party tool, or do it over PowerShell. If you want to have more information to how to do it with PowerShell, or you need consultancy, we can definitely hook you up with a company or a consultant that helps you with this specific features. How are the possibilities? So what are you actually capable of when you talk about externals? In external file sharing, you can have different settings in a group. You can file share with everybody, with new and existing guests, with only existing guests, or you can disable it. A lot of companies disable it, and there you need to ask yourself, is this what a good co-working platform should look like if you already have invited people and then disable file sharing with externals? I know it's a pretty hard topic, but it's basically different in every company, but because it really depends on how close you work with your guests. All right. Monitoring and management. What are your possibilities when it comes to externals? You can review the access in Azure Active Directory, but you need a P2 license for this. That's a premium license. You can use a third-party tool, or you do manual reviews with the AD. In the Azure Active Directory by an IT admin. That's perfectly fine too, but please do it. Check out what kind of data goes out. At least you know, okay, I probably am in need of a tool or of a better license with Microsoft, or I'm perfectly fine because my users anyway just work with themselves. All right. Your challenges are that Azure Active Directory is pretty expensive, and working with a third-party tool also needs time and onboarding, and it's in most cases not for free. On the enterprise level, you need to communicate with users and owners that they do have responsibility when it comes to when it comes to externals. So they need to be trained. And at first, the governance policies must be defined. So it must be clear what kind of data goes out and what people are allowed. It's not always about the button you need to push. It's sometimes also about the adoption concept you have and how you onboard your end users. So my tip: enable external access for all templates that need external access. So we talked about the templates before. The templates are also a very, very good solution for making a difference between internal and external use. You can implement an access review process with a tool or manually ask your users to review the teams once a year at least. So you can check, is somebody in there? So let's say, whatever, I invited somebody a year ago to review something with me, or he was my contractor in marketing. That's a good example, because a lot of marketing teams work with externals in teams. And in every marketing department, they change their consultants all the time. And therefore, they need to check if they're still in there, because this is private data you need to protect for your company. So train your owners. Don't forget the data protection. So speak about what they're allowed to share and what not. And don't forget corporate compliance. So I'm pretty sure every one of you here lives in a country that has some specifics when it comes to data and person-related data. So please use an agreement, an NDA, a privacy agreement, that people are bound to this if they work together with you on your Microsoft tenant. Let's cover channels and tabs. I know I've already talked a lot today. We will go over this briefly, because probably this is something you already looked into. Channels are important because you need to think about what users can use, and you need to educate them with the difference of a private channel and a public channel. And there will also be shared channels, so working with externals, which brings us back to the strategy you need working with external people. And then talking about tabs. So what kind of tabs and what kind of applications, we will cover this in a second, are configured or pre-configured if you use a governance tool. Would you like to roll out a nice structure for everybody that creates a team and already provide them with nice third-party tabs and Microsoft tabs? And do you work with OneNote and Planner? And do you need SharePoint content that also can be displayed in tabs? So there is a lot of things you can pre-configure or configure for your users that makes it easier for them to consume Teams, to work in Teams. For us in IT, it's always pretty easy to click on every button and check everything out. But in most cases, a regular user in project management doesn't do that. So give them a good structure. The possibilities are depending on third-party apps, channels, tabs, Planner, OneNotes. They can be added. So check out what kind of applications you need, and then check out what they can do for your customer users, and then train them. Microsoft Teams templates support additional channels, tabs, but it depends on the templates. Copy Team also copies channels and tabs, but in a very, very limited way. I've already talked about this. Do not copy Teams. Work with a third-party tool or work with Microsoft Teams templates. And there is one thing that is not on these slides, but it's very important. For a couple of you, this could be a big pain, but definitely get rid of the wiki tab. It will make you a lot of problems in the future. And I can tell you why it's not possible to migrate it. It's not possible to give different rights and permissions to it. Just get rid of it, add a OneNote to it, and tell that to your users. I know it looks nice and it's in every team. Just delete it. If you not already have experienced problems with it, you definitely will, and it produces or it has the potential to produce a lot of topics, a lot of tickets. Okay, my tip. Teams templates should bring different tabs, different channels for different purposes. For third-party apps as well as custom solution, always check the Microsoft if Microsoft Graph IP supports it, because then you can roll it out over the Graph IP. And do not use beta RPs in a running system in your company. If you're technically very, very good, use Microsoft Graph. You can do a lot with these things. Our experience is if you use a beta RP, Microsoft probably changes it in 2 days, and then it doesn't work, and then you get a ticket in IT because the user tells you it doesn't work. So take your time. They will release the actual APs by time. Don't use a beta one. And provide a pre-selection of channels. We made the experience that it's much easier for users to get a better overview of what they can do if they create a new project and they already have a good structure. And only provide channels that are actually used. Monitor them and adjust it. If you already have a tenant, if you are a tenant admin, make yourself an owner of a couple of teams and check out how the structure looks like. Or if you are planning to roll out teams, create a structure and then adjust it by time when it comes to the templating. Actions and settings. So we are almost at the end. It won't take long, but this is also an important topic. Owners and members' rights. Set permissions for the team owners and members in your templates. You can do that if you go to a team and you manage this team and then you have your settings. You can make rights for guests. So what are they allowed to do? Go to your admin center, check out the sharing rights. Teams level and admin level, define capabilities in the team and in the admin center. So you have a lot of options there. Check it out, especially also when it comes to applications. And then check out the general team settings that are for everybody. So I'm sorry, here we go. Team level, check out member permissions, guest permissions, mentions, fun stuff, tags. Check out how to set them up, define them in a template, roll these templates out manually, use the tool or use the Graph RP, and then check out the Teams admin center level. What are your Teams policies, meeting policies, message policies? It doesn't take long to engage with these policies, but you need to do it, especially the app policies and the team settings. And you always have a third-party file storage. Check out what is in there. So my tip, stay in the default if possible, but know what is possible, know when to interact, allow guests to edit or delete their messages as well, but nothing else. You can set that also up in the team settings. Create tags for large teams, definitely. So we talked about sensitivity labels and so on, and block the third-party file storage, that they can't add Google or something like that to it. So let's come to the Teams creation. We're almost at the end. Self-service or provisioning. What do you need? With Teams Standard or Teams Extension? It depends on the use case. Is there a request with approval? If you're starting with Teams and you do not have a very, very good adoption, think about a request process that you keep in control. You can like minimize it over time. And if you say, okay, everybody is up to date quite well, shut down the approval. That's perfectly okay. But don't start without one. And think about, do you need templates, standard or third-party applications? In our experience, and you know, I come from a company that builds that stuff, I would definitely always say yes, use Teams templates, because I've never seen an environment that worked without them, because people just don't want to think about the structure in every new team they create. And who is allowed to create teams? Only a few people or everybody? If you work with an approval, we always say everybody should at least be allowed to request a new team, because this is the way of co-working we want to achieve. So the possibilities are the Microsoft Teams client, you have third-party applications, you have SharePoint team sites, Office 365 administration center you can work with, and you have third-party tools for Teams requests with approvals. If you want to check that out, go to the App Store, download Teams Manager. It's a small application. It's installed in 1 minute, and you can check out the possibilities of what you can do here. And the advantages for the Microsoft Teams app, it's very, very simple for the user if it has a nice governance policy and a strategy. The third-party application should give you Teams approval. It should give you more templates for better content, and it should definitely automatically roll out stuff like a lifecycle naming convention, security access, and so on. If you're interested in this kind of governance, again, just hook up with us, book your governance workshop, and we show you everything in specific when it comes to what are your possibilities and how your tenant should look like. Your challenges are in MS Teams Standard that there is a restriction on templating and there is no approval possible, which always has a wild growth afterwards. If you already decided on a strategy of shutting down the group creation, this is what it's called for Microsoft Teams, so that not everybody can create new teams. Think about an automation. It's very hard to do all of that manually. Yeah. Okay. Implement an approval process is my tip. Provide no more than 4 to 5 templates and allow any user to start a request to make it as easy as possible. Special tip, if the concept is not implemented, disable the self-service, implement a Teams request, and start with thinking about a governance strategy. So, all right. Talking about Teams apps, I will briefly go over this. We could step into this in a workshop more deeply. You can do a very specific setup for Teams. You have the possibilities in the admin center. Use them, manage your applications. Go in the admin center and go to Teams apps and check out the permission policies, the setup policies. It can be a little bit tricky to create groups there, but try it out. It's definitely nice. And you can use third-party apps for app request, app review, and my apps versus an app overview. So there are a couple of them out there, or will be in the future. Think about it, what to provide your users with. These always results, and that's very important, that's the last piece, in a better security, because it's like downloading an application from your son's Android phone in China if you download a random application from the App Store as an end user. There are really, really dangerous ones out there. Just go over them, check them out, and decide what users really need, and then provide them piece by piece. You can also give your users the option, if they want to have a specific application, to open a ticket and say, hey, this is a very interesting app, I want to use it. And then you can review it and then maybe provide your end users with it, or just a couple of end users if it comes with a couple of costs. So as we are already at the end, very important, there is no right or wrong. The governance strategy depends on the organization and your requirements, but you definitely need one. It doesn't matter how it looks like, it just needs to keep your environment clean. We from Solutions to Share are the market leader in applications. So we provide you with Teams Manager, we provide you with External User Manager. These are free to test, so you can just download them, test them out. They are very affordable. These apps are not expensive. get on and test it. You can always book a demo with us on the website Solutions to Share, and check out which solution you need to cover your governance needs. If you are bigger than or have more than just a couple of teams, you probably should think about checking out some of these features. All right, and then that's again something for us. So we are the market leader. Teams Manager is in place with over 20,000 tenants worldwide, with very, very good Microsoft reviews. So check it out and test it. And now for today, for all of you that are here, we do have a special offer to get the governance workshop for Microsoft Teams. For 1,400 euros. You can add a training that is, if you want, that's already included in the price for a specific application. If you say, okay, Teams Manager sounds interesting, I want to check it out in my workshop, that's no problem. Just let us know. But we will definitely also help you for sure with governance out of the box features by Microsoft. There are several. Go on. Make an entry on this website. I think David already posted the link. So register yourself, and then we come back to you and we set up a time and go over your very own tenant and your very own strategy. So I hope you all had fun with this webinar. It was a great time. It was great to welcome you all. We are Solutions to Share, a German company who do governance for 10 years now, and we will do that for another 10 years at least. So have a nice day, have a nice evening, or even a nice morning, depends on which time zone you're in. I see there are many people from different countries, and see you soon and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.